So recently we launched national data for off-market leads, as well as the ability to analyze any property, no matter what the source was, on or off market. And I want to give you a sense of how you can leverage this data to find more deals, to find more leads, and basically put yourself in the best position to be able to get the outcome that you want. And for a lot of people who are in this business, whether it's fix and flip, wholesale, BRRRR, or some other strategy, after repair value is really important in that piece. And so one of the things you want to consider is, instead of just picking areas to look in based off of where you live or where you work, you want to look for deals based off of where you believe you can get the best return on investment. And investor activity up top here is the best way to put you in those situations. And so what you want to do is you want to uncover the investor activity. You can do that by clicking this little box right here. And this is going to show you where in the United States deals are being done. And then the higher the number, the larger the circle, the more activity there is. So there are pockets across the US that you potentially wouldn't want to spend much of your time or your effort looking for deals. Because when you look at what's called opportunity cost, any time that you're spending in one place, or any money you're putting in one place, is not being spent somewhere else. So with limited resources, you really have to make a good decision on where you can get the best outcomes. And so when we look at the map here, there's several areas that you might consider to go and look for deals in. And I've had people ask me about Las Vegas. That's an area I probably wouldn't target unless I lived there. I would have a line in the water there. I wouldn't be looking there exclusively. St. Louis, there is some good activity there. In and around Dallas, Dallas-Fort Worth has some good activity. Tampa, there's quite a bit going on down there. Pennsylvania, up in Philadelphia area is really hot right now. And then Chicago is good. So those are some of the areas I might consider. Oh, also Indianapolis. I'm a big fan of Indianapolis. So several markets in the Midwest that would be good targets for you. Now, in several of these areas, let me show you real quick. We've got the real-time MLS data. So we've been adding more and more markets here, and you can see the map is changing, it's evolving. So where we have blue are the live MLS markets. So there's over 30 different markets now. And the red ones are the ones that are in the queue that we're working on. So the red ones are here. So adding more and more. Now, people have asked us, well, you're not in, Boise, Idaho. We're going to wait until you get into Boise. Well, here's the thing. So in some markets, MLS data is more valuable than others. And with these smaller areas where there's not a lot of population, we may never actually go and get MLS data for. Now, we'll probably be in every major city and capital for sure. Even in second and third tier cities like Boise, I think we're going to be adding that one. However, there already is listing data there. So everything that you would get from MLS is already in these areas where it's yellow. It just isn't as up to date or rich. The data isn't as rich as in areas where it's blue. And so you can still get, run your comparables. You can still get owner information, mortgage information, deed data. They'll allow you to find off-market leads. You can get on-market leads. And then that's kind of what you might find on another platform like PropStream, for example. So that's what this data is. It's PropStream level data. What we do is we go out and we raise the bar a bit, and we're bringing in these MLS markets and putting that on top of the data that most companies use, which is aggregated. So it isn't coming directly from the source that we have. And then we're going to be adding more and more markets. So this is quickly changing. Excuse me. So if we go back to here and we look at the map, I had mentioned Indianapolis. Indianapolis is actually a pretty good market. However, look at the Philadelphia area. So that one has close to 1,000. Now this crosses over. It's not specifically right in Philadelphia. It does include areas across the river here into southern New Jersey. And then we can zoom in. And again, you want to be where you see the most activity. So large clusters, higher numbers is where you want to be doing your deals. Now, some people say, well, if I go to an area that has high investor activity, don't I have more competition? And the answer is yes, you do. However, this is a double-edged sword. What's a double-edged sword about it is that if you go to an area that has high investor activity, there's going to be people who are also looking at the same properties. However, if you're in an area over here, like in Exton, Pennsylvania, you might be able to find a motivated seller and have no competition. However, you're not going to be able to prove after repair value because there's no fix and flips here to use as comps. So anytime you're in an area where there's no fix and flips, you can prove value. You can find maybe other similar sales in the area. However, you won't be able to prove after repair value because ARV can only be determined accurately from fix and flipped comparables. Now, you can make some estimations on what a fix and flip property would be worth. However, it is not how an appraiser does it, right? They look at what other homes in the area sold for, and they might put in a slight bump in, like the costs. So you typically do not get the sweat equity increase in value from a fix and flip unless you've got fix and flip comparables. So that's the strategy. That's what you are attempting to do. Now that process, we call it the reverse REI strategy, or we're looking for deals based off of investor activity, what others have already done. That now is a patent pending process. So we've finished the process, submitting it through the patent office with our legal team. And so we're looking to get that officially patented. I think they gave us a year to go through all the due diligence and everything with the patent office. However, that's pretty exciting. So there isn't any other platforms out there that have patents involved. And so we're slowly adding more and more value to the system. And so that's pretty cool. So based off of this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up this area right here by zeroing in on it. So I'm going to go ahead and just circle this. And then we're going to be able to look here at what kind of activity is going on. So this is one of the hotter areas in all of the United States. Lot going on. And since we isolated this, you can see there's 131 properties that have been purchased, fixed up, and sold in the last 12 months. And the property went up in value. And the filter I have here that's baked into this button by clicking this investor activity box is right here. So 75% of ARV or better. So anything between 0 and 75, the closer you are to 0, the better the deal is. So let's take a look at a couple of these and see what we're up against. What does a fix and flip look like in a particular area? So here's one that closed recently. It's a little further south. This is 1230 Tasker Street, and sold for 456 grand. That's a good chunk of money for Philly. And then when we come down into this report here, again, this is the comparative market analysis. Our system is building one of these for every single property in the US, and then it's always constantly updating. So as there's new comparable sales, or if there's rental data changes, or there's status changes, it updates live right here. And then you can see the sales activity. So you can see this is an area where there's a lot going on. A lot of very similar homes in this area. This is probably a lot of row homes and townhomes. And look at this. So there's 81 solds that are similar to ours right in this half a mile zone. Crazy, right? Look at all of this rental data. So this is an amazing place to be able to go and do rentals, probably even short-term rentals. This data here is for long-term. And then you can get an idea of other fix and flips that are happening. So you can click this investor activity checkbox right here, and this will show you other fix and flips in the area. And you'll be able to see, what they bought and sold them for. So look how much activity is here. So all of these properties where it has original price and an arrow, these are all fix and flips. So we're in the right area, right? This is the whole point of the reverse REI strategy, is to put yourself in a situation where you've got all this data here on what a property is fixed and flipped and sold for, which makes it really easy for you to prove ARV if you find a similar property in the same area, right? Now, if you come down to the before and after, you can even get more information. So this house right here, they bought it for 260 grand. This was an on-market deal, right? So a lot of people believe that you are unable to find on-market properties that have discounts. It's just not the case. There's tons of them. So you can tell this one was on market because it has the agent information here. And then also up top, it shows the MLS number. If this was an off-market property, it would say public records here, and there wouldn't be any office information. And then you can see what it looked like before they did the renovation. So this house needed quite a bit of work. Looks like there's a lot of original, original stuff inside of it. And they sold it for $456,000 after a 245-day construction period. So that's a valuable piece of information that you can use when you're attempting to discover how long a process is going to take, because when you're looking at doing a fix and flip, or even if you're wholesaling, knowing how long a process takes, a project, is very valuable either for you or for your end buyer, because you need to always factor in the cost of time into a project. Because if you think it's going to take 60 days and it ends up taking 9 months, well, that could really cut into your profit margin. So you definitely want to look and research what other companies are doing and how long it's taking them, and also paying attention to the days on market. Days on market, how long was that property on the market for?
So Benson, so just because that property took over 200 days to sell, that doesn't mean, wouldn't you get wouldn't you check a few others before determining an average days on market?
Definitely. Oh yeah, no one property is going to give you a full picture. It's just one data point. So as you are in an area and you're getting up to speed on that market, just pay attention to this sort of stuff. You'll start to see trends. You'll start to notice that kind of information in your areas. And then, yeah, you might have an area where based off of 4 or 5 properties, the average construction time is, 200 days. It's a great point.
Thank you.
So the other thing is, what percentage of after repair value is this? So if we take 260,000 is what they bought it for, they sold it for 456,000. So they got this one at 56%. That's a pretty good deal, right? It's for an on-market property too, right? So if you are looking at deal flow, do not ignore on-market properties as a source of deals, because you'll be missing out on stuff like this that you can make money on. Even if you wanted to wholesale it, you can wholesale an on-market deal the same way as you can an off-market. You just have to put in obviously an assignment clause like you would for a normal deal. For off-market, and just be conscious of, what you're spending your time on. Let's see here. What else do we have? So now we also have all of the public record data. So I'm going to mute you guys. If you want to jump in, feel free. I'm just going to mute. I'm getting some background noise from a couple of you. Apologize. All right. So down here is the buyer. So if you are a real estate agent and you're looking for people that you can represent and help them find deals, well, here's Serene LLC, right? That's a company that you would want to, put on your potential client list. If you're a wholesaler, Serene LLC is somebody that you would want to put on your buyers list, because you know that they're doing deals here, and you want active people who can execute and actually have the money to close on your buyers list, not just somebody you met on a Facebook group who says that they buy properties, right? You've got the data and you got the proof that they've done some stuff. You also know what they're willing to do, what kinds of properties, because you're looking at one. So you can really get a sense of, how long their process takes. You can reach out and talk to them, and you've got information that you can talk to them about, right? You've got something in common now. You both know that they sold this property on Tasker. That's some common ground that could help facilitate a conversation that's not an awkward, like, why are you bothering me conversation. It's more like, hey, we're both in the business. I'm doing some research. I see that you sold a property. I'm also in the business, and I'm coming across properties that you might find interesting. Why don't we do business together? right? It's just a really different way of approaching it. And it's all based off of you having this data at your fingertips. So this is just one example. So what I would do is when you identify which area you want to spend your time in, research it, save sold searches. Not enough people who use Privy are leveraging the data that you can use to make you a better investor well enough. Because it's all about understanding what a deal looks like. So many people are just lead driven and they're just chasing these leads and they're writing offers and they're never looking back at, well, I wrote an offer on a property and now that property falls out of contract. Well, you probably wouldn't know about it unless you were paying attention. And the other part of that paying attention is making sure that you're looking at what other investors are doing, right? Being able to see what a deal is. What's the fix and flipper down the road doing? If you think you have to get a property at 40% of ARV for it to be a deal, and you see other investors doing them at 60, 70%, well, then you better get up to speed on what the reality of your market and realize, okay, some guru taught me I need to get 20% return on investment on a home and others are doing 12 to 15. Well, that's a wake-up call. Now you really understand what a deal looks like in your market. And then now that you're better informed, you can make offers that are appropriate for your area instead of putting out the lowball offers based off of your old paradigm. Now you can put out offers that are more realistic that have a higher chance of getting accepted, which will mean money in your pocket. So this is a good thing to consider when you're thinking about your offers, is that you don't have to hit a home run every time you do a deal. Maybe you're hitting singles and doubles, and those all add up to runs that make you money. However, you don't have to hit the home run to get that to work for you. And that's the reality of the market, you guys. Sometimes people don't like to hear it. When you research the properties and you go in and you look, you will find that out, that's actually what's happening out there. So do your homework, become the most informed, most educated investor in your market, and you will start to separate yourself from the pack. Whether you're doing fix and flip or buy and hold or wholesale, you better believe that the big guys, the people that this is a business, the ones that are doing hundreds of deals per month. Think about these institutional buyers. You've probably heard some of their names like Invitation Homes, BlackRock, Blackstone. That's a few, and then also some private equity firms and hedge funds. They're leveraging the data, and they are using that data to be able to make more educated decisions. So you can do the same, and you don't have to be a large, multi-$100 million or billion-dollar company to do it. So here's all the buyers. Now let's say you wanted to wholesale. Now the best way to wholesale is to work with people who are doing deals today, right? We know these are all here. Now you could come in and you could look up that one company that we found before on a one-off basis just by doing a quick little Google search. However, this is a kind of a one-off basis, right? So here's Jeff Trevina. Like, we just found this person. They're contractors, so they're doing deals at the same time he's doing cement. So now we've got Jeff's information. We got his LinkedIn profile. We can send him a connection request. I'm going to connect with him. And then, there's more information here. This is just his LinkedIn. There might be a web page or a Facebook group or some other way that you can reach out to them and start to build that relationship. Here they are. Here's Visipedia. So this is one of those business databases that has information about them. So let's see here. You got a property address, or you have an address of their office. So you might send them a piece of mail or knock on their door. Now, that's on a one-off basis, right? So what you would probably want to do if you wanted to do more than one, and by the way, you don't need a buyer's list that has 1,000 people on it. You want a buyer's list that has like a strong 10 to 20 who are doing deals, and you've already built the relationship. So up right-hand corner, click list view. And then now here's 131 buyers that are doing deals today. So you can, play with these things. Maybe you just wanted to add like a handful to a list. So if you had 4 properties that you liked, and maybe you wanted to share all 4 of these with somebody. Well, you come up here where it says share, it turns blue. And this will create a sharing link for those 4 properties that you can send to somebody. So you can share multiple properties at once. You can send them right from here, or you can copy it and paste it in your Gmail or your Facebook chat or whatever. You could also, if you found that some you didn't like them, you could hide them. You can also favorite these so they show up in your favorites folder. See, these alters turn yellow. You can also add them to a list. Let's say you wanted to add these 4 properties to a list, either an existing list, or if you wanted to create a new one, you just click new list, and then you put them in there, and you can put a little description of what that list is about for yourself or for your team so people know what it is they're looking at. And then there's some other things you can do on a one-off basis. So if you click right here, you can share 1 property. You can put a note on this. So like this one on 27th, maybe you found that person, right? So you can put a note right there, and it goes there, and you can save it. Oh, that was the edit. Here's the note section. You can put a note there for yourself. It's toggled to private automatically. So lots of new features and functionality. This list view, our team really put a lot of time and effort into this. My partner Scott Fall, him and Matthew and Doug, they were really just put a lot of really good time and effort in here. And as you can see, it came out awesome. Like the design is great. Lots of features and functionality. It's really well thought out. And so this is all here for you guys to be able to use. So let's go ahead and export this. So you just click select all, and over here to the right, there's a download button. So you just click download, and we allow you guys to export up to 10,000 leads per month for free, right in your current pricing plan. Down the road, we're probably going to add in another level where you can upgrade if you want to go over 10,000. However, the average person is probably not going to want to do 10,000 leads a month. It would be way too overwhelming. It's up to you though, right? If you wanted to go for that many, you certainly could. It's just that many leads is extremely hard to manage and use. So now that once you have that list, then it exports it into a file format like this, where we have the property information. We've got this data here that comes from Privy. So you've got the property info, square footage, beds, baths, some other different like statuses or dates, prices. And then to the right is the information that we use to skip trace to find these people. So here's the owner information. If it's an individual, it shows up in this column right here. If it's an LLC, it'll show up right here in owner one business. And you can see these are LLC type names. And then we also have the mailing address. So for a non-owner occupant buyer, they're going to put a different address in that on the HUD, the closing statement. So they're going to have their mailing address, and then they're going to have the property address, which they, in this case, they fix and flip. So this would be different addresses. So this is where you would send mail if you wanted to send them a postcard. And this same process goes for a distressed seller, like a foreclosure or an absentee owner or a vacant. It's still the data is the same. And then you can get that information. The other thing that we added to this, which is cool, is we actually have the sharing link for the property in the spreadsheet. So if you upload this into your CRM or you put it into some format that you want to use, a lot of people work from actually from the spreadsheet. Some people really like it. And then you can get to the property that you want just by clicking this link, and it'll take you directly to the CMA for that property. And then skip tracing, we don't currently have native skip tracing in Privy. We plan on adding some functionality like that down the road. However, there's a company that I like to use called Sherpa. It's leadsherpa.com. And they're really affordable, good reputable company, good prices. You can also do SMS marketing out of their system. And then once you log in here, you can upload your lists. And then let's see here, direct mail. So here's some lists, here's some properties I uploaded already. And so you can do some different things here to manage this. So this is a good one. A couple are is like Batch Leads. That's a decent company. It's up to you who you use. This is just the one that I like. And then once you skip trace a list, you upload it. It has to be in the proper format. So I have a different video that I showed you guys how to do this. It's in YouTube, and I also put it into the knowledge base. There's a template here. And the template, you need to make sure that the template, that your file is in the same format as the template. And then once that's matched up, it'll properly upload, and then you match up the columns. And here's their template here. And whether you use Batch Leads or you use Realaflow or you use some other CRM, this is a process you'll have to go through. And then once that is skip traced, then you can export it. And this is what an exported list looks like. So over here on the left is the property information, the owner name, the mailing address, and then to the right of that is the actual skipped trace info. So here's the phone number. It tells you what kind of phone it is. If it's a mobile, you can do an SMS message to them. If it's a landline, you are unable to. You also have dates here. So if you have a number that's just really, really old, you may eliminate it because maybe it's not being used anymore. So this here is somehow tracking if the phone number has been used and what date it was. And then over here, you keep going and you've got the emails. So now if you wanted to do an email marketing campaign, or if you wanted to, put them on a blast after you've done, if maybe you found a property and you want to send it out to everybody, you could send them right here. Now, I wouldn't send it out until you've done your relationship building, calling them, introducing yourself, telling them about your business model and getting them on board so they know that you're a valuable can be a valuable piece of the team. And they'll be more likely to open up an email if you send it to them than if you just blindly send it out without any sort of introduction or anything. Too many people do that, and it's kind of lazy, honestly. If you go and do your relationship building and you build those relationships, then you can narrow down that list of buyers to like I said, 10 to 20 who actually are doing deals, who have money, who aren't going to beat you up on your assignment fee. Right? When you have a relationship with somebody and you say you want $5,000, they're going to be less likely to say, oh, well, I'll only give you $1,000, right? Because now you're colleagues. And so that's part of you getting the maximum assignment fee is adding value. So that's this list. So that's what you're able to do with that. And then you can, there's lots of other services that you can use this with. You could upload it into a dialer, like a Mojo dialer, if you want to do multiple. There's companies that have ringless voicemail. Obviously, you can do SMS marketing. So lots of benefits to using a company like this. So check them out, leadsherpa.com. All right, so I showed you guys how to find a hot area, how to find buyers in that area, how to export a list. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to actually show you how you can find motivated sellers, because we know this is a hot area, right? This is where you want to spend your time and your effort. You do not want to spend your time looking at areas where there isn't this data. Again, double-edged sword. Yeah, there might be other people here looking for deals. However, by going here, you solve a lot of the problems that eventually cause people to fail down the road because they didn't do their research. So this will help you with that. So I'm going to switch over from people who are doing fix and flips. So I'm going to uncheck, I'm going to clear this middle section out. I'm going to leave this on the top, sold, because we're going to look for off-market properties. And as you see here, there's only 4 statuses. So it's either on market, which would be pending, active, or under contract, or, and those are all on market statuses. There's only one off market status, and it's sold. So this is what you're going to use when you're looking for distressed sellers. So there's a bunch of different options here, but you can look for absentee owners, bank owned. This cash buyer is when you're looking for properties that don't have a mortgage on them. You can look for auctions, corporate owned properties, interfamily transfers. For some reason, if two people have the same name, that means they transferred the property to somebody else. You got foreclosures, senior owners. These are people that have owned a property for more than 30 years. Tired landlords is somebody who's owned a house for more than 10 years and it's an absentee owner. Vacants, so the post office will report to the county if they deliver mail to a house and that mail starts to stack up and nobody pulls it in, they'll eventually mark that home as vacant, and then they turn it back into the post office and the post office reports it to the county. So let's look at zombie properties. So zombie properties is cool because these are homes that are vacant and absentee owner. So think about an absentee owner. What's the whole point of that? Well, it's for them to get rent, right? These are rental properties. And if you have a house that's vacant, well, they're not getting any rent, are they? So they're potentially more motivated to sell than somebody that's not in that same situation. So what would you do with that? So you click zombie property, and then I've got a very basic filter here. And I'm going to switch over to a date range here. I want to go back a little bit. So let's say we do 2015. It's up to you what this date range is. The point of going back is to get properties that sold prior to 2015, so that over the last 5 or 6 years, these people have had an opportunity to get into a position where they might be motivated to sell. And then you don't want to go to the beginning of time necessarily. You could, however, it's going to be lots of leads. So what you're going to want to do is go back a little bit. Let's say to 2010. This might even be too big. We'll check it. So it's a 5-year time period for the last sale. So let's go ahead and run that search. And this is a manageable list. This is 343. So upper left-hand corner where it says properties found, that's how you know how many there are. Now, when you're zoomed out, we originally show you these property clusters, right? These are representation of the individual properties that are below. And so the property cards will not show up on the left-hand side of the screen until you zoom in. So you can either click the property cluster, or you can use your roller ball, or you can use the plus or minus sign here, and that will zoom you in. And then you can start to see the actual individual properties. And then those property cards will show up on the left-hand side. And then you can do different things with them. You can create a list, you can export them, you can put them in a CSV file, and then put them into a skip tracing company. So it shows you like where these pockets are at. Like there's some areas of town that just have a lot more absentee owners. Like there's a lot of rentals in this neighborhood right here. There's not as many rentals up here. Look at Feltonville and Junista, right? This is an area where you wouldn't want to look for absentee owners. And again, remember, this is in the hot area that we were looking at earlier. So, there's quite a bit going on here. And, because we started in this high investor activity area, we're going to have better data to be able to prove after repair value. Because let's say you started calling people. Well, what I would do is I bring up my spreadsheet right in front, and then I would click the sharing link over here to the right. And then once you have the sharing link, it'll open up on there, and then you call them. And now you've got the CMA for the property that you're calling about right in front of you. And so there's a chance you could get them on the phone, right? Now, likely you won't get them on the phone the very first time you call. However, you should be prepared for that to happen. So you probably want to look at this before you even call. Now, you don't have to dig deep, because that could be a lot of work. However, if you know this property and you call them and you're informed, well, that gives you the edge in the negotiation, because they're going to be like, well, my house is, perfect. And, we did a fix and flip, not a fix and flip, a renovation last year. And you could be like, well, I'm looking at photos of it. It doesn't look like it's been renovated. Tell me more, right? Or if they say, well, what will you buy my house for? Well, you can say, well, I don't know. Let's take a look and see, let's look at the investor activity. So you select distance here, and you come down and you look at the comps and you say, okay, one of the closest properties that you just sold went for 205,000, right? That's literally right down the street. So the ARV for this house, depending upon the level of condition, it could be in that $200,000 range. And they can open up that property and take a look at it, see if that, what kind of condition it's in, look at the photos, and be like, all right, well, someone's done some work on this thing. It's not a complete fix and flip. However, it is, it's been updated. You can see they spent some money on the floors, and maybe they put a little bit of work into the house itself. There's new tile. So this one may be representative of the after repair value because it's a comp, right? This one is even a little bit larger than this one that sold for 205. Yours is a 3.2. This one's a 4.2. So you would have to subtract out the value of a bedroom on this one unless you could get another bedroom in there. So now you got a sense of value. So if you get them on the phone and they say, well, I want 180 grand for this, you can be like, oh, listen, I'm sorry. The fix and flip house down the street on Ashdale just went for 205. And, I need to be at at 95 grand for it to make sense for me. Right? And now you can feel comfortable doing that because you got the data at your fingertips. So that's the same process you would go through, in these properties. And, everyone is a little bit different. And then you could skip trace this same list, same process, just click list over here, and you can export these and then, do a mailing campaign. You wouldn't you don't have to skip trace to do mailers, right? If you want to do direct mail, you only have to skip trace if you're looking to do SMS marketing, if you're going to call out, or if you're going to do email marketing. If you're just going to do mail, you can just go export this, and then you can go to a company like Yellow Letters. And this is just an example of a company that does direct mail. And they've got a bunch of different templates here. And all you got to do, you can do postcards. You get to pick what size and what color and what it says. So lots of options here. And then you just create an account and then you can upload it right to here. So Yellow Letters is a company you might consider. I don't have a relationship with them. I actually don't know anybody there. However, I know that these guys have been around forever. Cool. Well, I just walked you through a few different things, talking about some of the new features and functionality, creating lists, the reasoning behind which areas you want to target, and giving you some strategies that will help you get a better outcome at the end because of the reverse RA strategy and our patent pending reverse engineering strategy based off of investor activity. So I'm now going to open it up to questions. Is there anybody here who wants more explanation or has a question about what we just covered? And then feel free to put your questions in the chat or unmute yourself.
So, Vincent, that list earlier that you comprised of 131, those were buyers in that zip code?
Those were buyers in this zone that I drew.
In that zone, okay.
Yeah, so I drew this zone. So that's why I like drawing on the map better than zip codes or cities, because, Philadelphia, somebody might put in Philadelphia. Well, Philadelphia proper might end, right here on this road, and then so you wouldn't get anything on this side. And then same thing with zip codes. Like, where does it end? Where does it begin? It's hard to tell, especially if you're looking at investor activity. This investor activity can cross over many different zones. So when you draw it, you're able to capture what you want, and then any search from that point forward will be based off of that drawn zone.
So, okay, thank you for that. Can you go over again how you got to that 131 list?
Yeah, sure. So what you're going to do is at the top here, right now, this is showing these quick buttons. These are at the top of everyone's screen. So these are all of the quick buttons for those particular distressed seller situations. So we got 343 zombie properties in that zone. There's 172 tired landlords. You can actually layer on top of the other search these different filters. So you get stacked lists. Now, to close this and show the deals bar, you go ahead and you just click deals. Now that closes, and now we see here we got 131 in that area. So all I do is I just click that 131, and now it's going to go in and it's going to find all of those buyers.
Oh, wow! I never noticed that.
Then you can export that list.
Okay. All right. And how do you get to that screen again that you just had, where the all the square buttons were on that same page? And you said
right here. So at the top, there's the deals bar. So you can click it, it closes, opens.
The screen you had before that, where they were just on a blank, when you're talking about you could layer them.
Oh, well, so here's those same things are at the top. So these are all those filters. And if you wanted to edit them, you can by going to here and hitting this drop down. And then you can edit these and move them around. So if you click edit, you can actually go and move these, change the organization of them, reformat them, get rid of them. So if you didn't want, bank owned, you could click the button here and it removes it. So now bank owned is down here.
Okay. And again, so that page you got to, I guess it's harder to see because I'm on my cell phone. Man. You got to that page.
There's a little arrow right here, the top of the screen. Just to the right of the last card is a down arrow.
Okay. All right.
Right at the top here.
Okay. All right. Thank
you. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Dennis, I do. We've got MLS for the Springs. That's PPAR. So there's also on-market leads, right? So I'm a big fan of on-market because the seller's motivated. They've raised their hand. They've told you they want to sell it. You know exactly what they want to sell it for. You know the price. And then all you got to do is set up a filter to identify which of those on-market properties look like good deals. So in the past, a lot of people didn't like on-market because they spent most of their time just running comps on a bunch of properties and then saying no to a bunch of homes. Whereas if you went up here to the filter, and you could actually change this right here over to MLS or go to active. However, we do have this easy button. So right here where it says click to find similar active deals. This is basically a filter with preset options. So then you click that, and now we've got on-market deals that are here. And then once you get in close enough, this will start to put them on the left-hand side. And then we can look at some of these properties that could be good on-market deals as well. And so in this, what's in that filter is 75%. However, you can adjust it. It's up to you. So if you want to leave it on 75, you can come to properties. Now, this one, my eye was drawn to it because of this blue tag right here. That blue tag means Privy Preferred. So Privy Preferred is another one of our proprietary filters, which uses investor activity to find good deals. So this house not only has comps where there's a margin of at least 25% higher than what you can buy it for, there's also properties in the area that were fix and flipped. So those two things shows us that a house is pretty preferred. So right here, this one was fix and flipped. So we know there's before and after data. So that makes this a good property to have because you want fix and flip comparables. This one was purchased for 100, sold for 235. So based off of these two fix and flip comparables, this house here would be worthy of targeting because you're going to be in the 61% range based off of these two comps. This one right here is for sale for 275 after renovation. However, it hasn't sold yet. You can see here, this is green. That means it's an active fix and flip. Over here to the right, where it says days on market, DOM, that's how long it's been on the market at that 275 price. So this house is probably overpriced, right? So you wouldn't want to use this as a representation of after repair value until it finally sells, and then you'll know it'll sell because it'll turn red here, and then the final price will be here at the bottom, and you'll have the sold date over here too. So this one looks decent. So 139. This one, there's two fix and flips. That's sorted by distance. And we can open up this one on 4th Street and take a look at it. And you can see they did some exterior work. It looks like they either just painted the brick or they stuccoed it. Probably just painted. Yeah, it looks like they painted it. And then you can dig into the pictures more and really just see, okay, well, what did they do to this thing? How did they get to that 235 value? Did they leave money on the table? I was looking at a fix and flip earlier, and I could not believe that what they did to the flip. Like they had like these old cabinets, and they put granite down on them, and they had mismatched appliances, and I'm like, they left money on the table by not going in and just doing it right. So you can learn a lot from these things by looking at them. These people look like they did it right. Like it looks like they did a good job. And this isn't a high-end flip. This is, probably what's appropriate for the neighborhood. So now you know where the bar's been set and what you need to do to your property to get to the same 235 mark. And if 235 ends up being the after repair value for your house, then you're going to be right around 60% of the ARV if you can get it for 139. So that's a deal, right? And what's cool about that is you didn't have to skip trace or cold call or knock on anybody's door. Didn't have to spend money on a mailing campaign. These kinds of properties you can write offers on every single day. And as long as you are realistic about that and you have good numbers, you will find properties on market that you can make a killing with.
So I have a question. This is Margarita.
Hi, Margarita.
Hi there. Can you filter for expired listings?
No, not currently.
No, okay.
No, expired is a kind of a weird thing because in most MLSs, they do not basically have a change of status. They just stop sending the data out to us.
Okay.
So as a vendor, we're getting kind of like this middle ground where they don't send the updates. It's just the data just stops coming.
Okay.
Now, if you've got properties that you're tracking and they become expired, it'll show those to you as expired. There's just not a filter for it.
Okay.
Well, can we also search for properties that have been on the market for more than 60 days? Is that?
Yeah, there's a days on market filter. So yeah, you could do that easily in the filter itself. I'll show you here in a second. So this one's for sale for 69 grand. And we've got this one here that was flipped. It's been on the market for 21 days. 159 is the ask price. This one here went for 102, 102. So there's some fix and flippers here that are very optimistic about the price they're going to get. So I see solds and I see a lot of actives. However, the actives that have high prices haven't sold yet. Look at this one, 132 days on market. way overpriced. So take that into consideration when you're looking at deals, even if you're doing wholesale. So somebody asked about the days on market filter. So if you're in the filter here, down here where it says days on market, you're going to use the floor instead of the ceiling. The high end is the ceiling, which means you wouldn't want days on market over a certain price or a certain number of days. If you put it on the bottom, then you're going to need a minimum of that number of days. So if we put 60 here, then we can run the search. And then this is going to show us here at the top where you see where it says active, 60 days. So that's how you find those properties that have been on the market for longer than whatever day you set.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Jay, we're working on that one, man. Got an agent up there, and it's in the works. Look at this house. This is a mess. Cool. So we're coming up at the end of the hour here. Is there any final questions?
So I have one more question. So if you go into a area where you've never been, never visited, and a new area, would you have any minimum recommendation to even consider it in terms of investor activity?
No, I would just compare it to other markets. So when you're on the map here, and you click investor activity, look at opportunity cost. So you may not have like a minimum number of deals that have been done. However, you might want to compare it to another market and say, okay, well, compare it to, I don't know, Amarillo. Like Broken Arrow doesn't look that bad, although Broken Arrow 97 isn't great. So, relative to that, this would be a better place to invest. So that's how I would do it, is just compare it to other markets. As far as a minimum number, no. I just pay attention to the numbers, and so I look at it. Okay, some of these areas are either trending up or down, and then you can see there's different areas that are hotter than others. I'd want at least, I don't know, 100, 150.
Okay.
Is what I would shoot for. Of course, I mean that would be the minimum.
Yeah.
And then do your research those areas, dig in, look at all the fix and flips that happened in the last 30 days. Look at the agents who did those deals.
Yeah.
And then reach out to them and start to build those relationships so you can build your investor focused agent. And then you can go from there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's all new data sets we're going to be bringing in here. Some people, I showed you, we've got rental data. We've also got multifamily. So if you want to look for multifamily in this area, we can do that. So if I want to look for active multifamily properties, you just switch over to the multifamily, and then down here in the units, make sure you put a number here. So I always put 2+, because in most MLSs, multifamily isn't a certain category. It's considered income properties. So an agent can list a single family property that's only one unit as income. So if you do not put 2 here, if there's a single unit income property, it will show up in your results.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is looking for multifamily, and this is, you can see there's just a number of listings that are out there. Yep, and then we're going to be adding in more and more data. We'll probably be adding in down the road like crime statistics. We're looking at short-term rental data. I'm looking to do a partnership with a couple different companies. Crime statistics in my mind is most relevant when you're looking at doing rentals. If you're doing fix and flip or wholesale, it's not all that important. However, I do know people who are trying to do fix and flips in an area that has high crime, and their stuff just keeps getting stolen. So something to pay attention to for sure. Although it's most important when you're looking at if you're going to have the property ongoing, and you want to be more concerned with crime. Awesome. Well, I hope that was helpful for everybody. The next session is this Thursday. It's going to be Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. This one I did record, so I will be posting this up in the Learning Center, the same place where you went to register for this session. If you didn't look, the top video on that registration page is the networking session, and we didn't have a great turnout this time because it was the night before Thanksgiving. However, you should make an attempt to get to those. There is always good things happening on those training webinars. The other thing I would recommend is, like, here's one of the networking webinars that we did, is I would suggest that you actually register to get updates from our YouTube channel. So please go in and get registered and subscribe to our channel. And that way you're going to get updates. I put a lot of trainings up here. I do like tips and tricks and all like deals of the day. So a lot of that most of that doesn't get put into the training center. It's not, it's for a different purpose. So please register for that. So thank you everybody for being here. I do appreciate it. And always reach out to me if you have any questions. There's lots of training here, on demand stuff. And then of course you can register for the group trainings that we have twice per week. In the meantime, I wish you all a good night, and let's talk soon. Take care.
Thank you.